We asked you to ask us the most wanted questions you guys have about mine and Uzma's Airbnb business, how we met, how we became business partners, and even more personal questions. And we're going to be answering that today. So first question, Uzma, how did we become business partners and start this Airbnb business together?
So a lot of the people out there think that we just randomly met one day, but that's not how it happened. We actually grew up in the same city, went to the same primary school, same secondary school, and we never really talked about money because it was a really taboo topic. We were in the same friendship group circle. However, growing up, it was never anything serious that we'd talk about in our lives. However, when it got to a point where we left school and it was actually COVID, that's where we both saw each other. We were both hustling. So myself, I was doing many different things like reselling, working at my warehouse job, and also doing other side hustles. And Lena, you were also trying to pursue
an unwanted university degree.
We kind of just joined forces. We both wanted to be our own boss. We both wanted to become financially free because we had a big why. We wanted to give back to our families. We both had something in common. We ended up pursuing it together.
When we started an Airbnb business together, Uzma had a lot of things that I didn't have. I had a lot of things that Uzma unfortunately did not have. That's how we joined forces, and you can really find that in anyone. You will find someone, and it can even be in your friends. You will see that you tend to be better at a certain skill, whereas your other friend, they might have another personality type and they might be better at another skill. So if you guys combine the skills together and see what you guys can really make of it, you can actually create something really beautiful in the end. And in our scenario, it was this Airbnb business that we managed to really scale and become successful in.
So can we go into a bit more detail then, Lena? Stephen asked, why did you two want to work together?
We could either be really good and try to do it on our own, which there is nothing wrong with doing. If you want to start a business on your own, you can be really successful in that. But I really wanted speed, and I wanted to leverage off your skills, and I know you wanted to leverage off my skills. So if we're both leveraging off each other's skills, we'd be able to scale more faster. There's a reason why in 1 month we managed to get 4 units. I would have never been able to do that on my own. Even if I hired people, the amount of planning that consisted, and I know you remember, it was last year, I can't remember the month, but it was last year, June, July. And you remember the amount of planning it needed. And yeah, it was really difficult. I don't think I would have been able to do it on our own. We can do this on our own, but I don't think we would be where we are today without each other.
There's a beautiful saying that goes, if you want to go slow, you can use a bike. One person fits on a bike. But if you want to go in a car with speed, there's going to be room for more people. And I think that's a very big thing. When it comes to scaling your business, people just want to do everything themselves. And it's a bit of a limiting and frugal mindset. They think that because they're going to be sharing the money, that it takes something away from themselves. But that's not the case, because if you join forces with someone that can improve a different side of the business, which might not be your expertise, then you can grow very, very fast. And I think that was a very clever thing that we both did and that we recognized. I think a lot of people don't recognize. I think that was our strength really in our business.
100%. Next question, how did we know that we could trust each other and split profits equally?
We both take home the same amount as each other, and it's fair in that sense. So the profits are divided equally. However, it is very scary when you're going into business with someone. I think one important thing is knowing about your business partner's spending habits. I know for a fact that Lena knew that I don't spend my money just anywhere. And when you come from nothing, I think that was the biggest driving factor in us just wanting to grow more and more and more. And we never actually really thought about what money was inside the business or in the company. We knew what we were generating, but we didn't see that money as ours. And I don't think, Nina, you saw that money in the bank as yours either. It was the company's money. So just to answer your question, although me and Nina don't have a solid contract between us both, it is very important, and I would really recommend you to go into an agreement with someone, your business partner, having a contract that a legal team would be able to draft up. Although me and Nina, we trust each other with everything, I don't think there's a lot of people that deserve to be trusted to that extent, meaning we both do trust each other. However, it is very important to have a solid contract in place when you are going into these things. So Chidi asked, what makes a good business partner in property?
I'd say they need to be good with numbers, knowing how to really analyze a property deal sufficiently and effectively, not being an emotional person. If I see that you have emotional tendencies, then it would really worry me, because I don't know if the deal that you've analysed, you've done it because you feel emotional regarding it. You might have overestimated the numbers. For example, if I link it to Airbnb, you might see a property deal, you might really like it, but then you're overestimating the nightly rates. That's not accurate. We can't move forward with something like that because you've overestimated the numbers, and then once we do get into the deal, then we're losing money from the first month.
I agree. The worst thing that you can have, the worst quality, is to be an emotional decision maker. I think that's something that we've actually had to work on a lot within the past 2 years. It's gotten to a point where every decision I make now, it's purely a data-based decision. Whereas when you're starting off in business, you can be a bit emotional. There is a quote that I go by and it's always stuck with me since I was a teenager, and that is, never make permanent decisions on temporary feelings. So you never base anything that is gonna stay with you for a very long time based off a temporary feeling that you're going through. So the next question is, what gave you the idea of starting your own Airbnb business?
When we saw Airbnb, we saw that this is something that's actually sustainable. There will always be demand for accommodation. I know there was COVID that happened and accommodation had to be closed temporarily, but that doesn't mean that the whole business stopped, because people were housing NHS workers now. They were housing emergency people that needed to evacuate it from their households. I believe accommodation, well, it's one of the biggest industries you can be in.
With property, it's a tangible asset once you own it. If you're starting off and you're doing the rent-to-rent model, although you don't own it, it's still something tangible. Compare it to something like Bitcoin. When you're starting off, it's not something that's actually tangible. It's worth one thing, 2 days later, it's gone to nothing. That is something which is very worrying. People that are just starting out and don't have a lot of funds, and that is probably one of the worst mistakes someone can make, is when they don't have a lot of money and they're jumping onto something where actually Bitcoin and crypto and all that kind of stuff is something that you should be looking at once you have that. Yeah.
Next question is, how much do you need to start your Airbnb business? Wishing you both success.
Thank you to whoever said that. I mean, when we both started the business, we had a decent amount of savings, but to actually get us started, we needed 5k for the first deal. And that was with us going full out with the first property. We'll stick some pictures in somewhere. And the reason why we spent a lot of money with the decorations is because it's very important when it comes to building your brand online. And also, you don't want to be a business where you have to keep coming back to the property and renovating the property every few months because you decided to go cheap with a few bits in the property. So we did spend a little bit more. We did it right the first time, and it's a situation where we don't have to go back for 2 years.
5k is all we spent. We've got over 15 Airbnbs and they're all profiting about on average 1 to 1.5k per month. Like, all we spent was 5k. And now we're getting, God knows how much more we're getting back from that. While we were recycling the money, we were also using American Express cards. We were leveraging credit, we were leveraging the bank's money, and we were using a mixture of the bank's money and our own profits. So that just helped us scale even more. So 5k isn't a lot for how much you can make from this.
Lena, you said that we recycled the money. If we didn't have recycled the money, are you able to share how much we would have put in?
So 5,000 times 15. So we would have spent 75 grand.
However, we were able to do it by putting the 5k in and then seeing the returns come out from that first property, and then putting it into the next one, using a little bit of credit as well, and then doing it continuously, where we've scaled a business that would have needed us to put 75k in, but it stems from that first 5 grand. So we didn't actually have 75 grand in our banks. Why did you decide to do the rent to rent and not buy a property?
We ideally wanted to purchase houses, but of course we can't afford that. Because first of all, the average property in the UK is about over 200 grand, and you need to put down a 20% deposit down for that. We didn't have that deposit money at all. I had 5k, Uzma had a bit more than that. So we would have never been able to afford to buy a house and invest our money into property like we've always wanted to do. So that's why we started to do this rent to rent. Now with the rent to rent properties, with the money we've saved up from these rent to rents, we're now going into venturing into owning properties now. We're going to be buying properties, flipping properties, and rent to rent has just offered us that leeway to do that within 1 to 2 years. If we didn't do rent to rent, it would have taken us over 10 years to get into property, to start buying. Uzma, did anyone doubt you when you were starting this Airbnb business?
I didn't share anything with my family, to the point that I didn't share how much money I was saving. I didn't share when I was starting out the Airbnb business, purely because I wanted to keep it to myself until we made something of it and we actually had something set in stone. But also there's nothing to actually congratulate because you haven't actually won anything. There was no success, so there was no point of me gleaming and saying, hey mom, hey siblings, I'm starting out a rent-to-rent business. There's something to be proud about. I think that's where most people also go wrong. They want to announce things that haven't actually happened, and by doing that, you're actually releasing happy hormones to make your brain believe that you've achieved something, but actually you haven't. And you get all this praise for nothing. So for myself, it was just keep it to yourself. And once it becomes something successful, that's when you can announce it.
Even when we had it running, we would still get doubts. I don't know if you remember the guy in the shop. We had a property, we were being successful, we were finally making it out. But this man at a shop, we went to drop the keys off to him for the guest to then collect the keys later. And he said to us,
you two ladies can't do this. This is a man's business. You need a man. What happens when there's a party at the house? What are you going to do? You need a man.
It was crazy that he said that because he was saying it in the most rudest way, but yeah, it was really patronizing the way he said it. But me and Uzma left that store and we just said to ourselves, if we don't believe in ourselves, who will? So we had to really stick with each other and believe in the vision that we both had.
We couldn't accept what he was saying. I mean, he was working very long hours from early mornings to late nights every single day. A few months passed and we went back again to drop the keys off, or something happened, like an emergency, we were around the area, and he was still there. And that's when it just kind of clicked, and it was like, you can't take advice from someone that isn't where you want to be.
I've never ever gotten hate from someone that's doing better than us. I think that says it all.
So Jawad Arif asks, what are some of the problems that you faced as business partners?
Between us or within the business?
I think it means between us. What is something that we've actually had to go through together as business partners?
Well, one of the first problems was finding out what our positioning is in the business. I was trying to do some stuff that Uzma was doing, you were trying to do what I was doing. There was just be a massive clash. One of your roles was to furnish the property, and I'm horrible at doing that, but I would try to intervene with you doing that. It ruined our first couple of properties because I would say, oh, let's get a blue sofa with some orange frozen pillows and some yellow picture frame. It just didn't make sense. You accepted that, even though you were still working with me on that, and you allowed that to happen. You know, we tried to work together. And yeah, I do feel like our first two properties weren't our best looking ones because of that clash.
Intervening in each other's roles just meant that we moved at a very, very slower pace. Me and Nina, we both would resort to going on Instagram and putting polls up to get the public to vote on whose idea was better. Although it's good to put it out in the public sometimes, it's like, because we were clashing, it's not even that we wanted the public's vote, it's just we wanted to know who was right. But there is no right answer, it's just who's better at doing that task that needs to be done and who can just go on and execute it. If you look at all these little things, if you try to do everything and you just stick your nose in other departments that aren't actually yours, then you don't get anywhere.
Someone said, what's one thing that annoys you about each other?
I would say that one of the things that really annoys me about Lena is that she gets really easily offended. And that's one thing, again, in the business that we both had to understand about each other. We both have our strengths, we both have our weaknesses. And one of Lena's weaknesses, I'd say, is that criticism gets to her a little bit, like too much. But also it works to our advantage at the same time, because she takes the criticism, she doesn't stop thinking about it, she becomes obsessed, and then she wants to become better each time. So although temporarily it causes clashes between me and Lena, because I am a bit outspoken and I do say things out loud without filtering myself on the side when Lena's receiving it, it's not the best. But the product of that is Lena creates something very positive out of it.
Definitely agree with what you said, and I appreciate how you turn the negative into a positive. I don't take criticism very well. I do get easily offended. I make sure that any criticism that you give me, as harsh as it can be sometimes, I do make sure to fix it if it's right to fix. One thing about that annoys me about you is you never stop thinking about work, I guess. It's very important as entrepreneurs to be able to switch off a few hours before you go to bed and have that time to yourself. But with you never switch off. Again, there's positive and negatives with that. You know, it could be 9 p.m. and I'm trying to have my dinner and Uzma's just next to me talking about acquiring new units or any problems that we went through with landlords. I guess there's a beauty in it because you're always given the reminders of what needs to be done the next day, and it's just really helpful to have you there. But at the same time, it's really annoying.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reality of an entrepreneur, right? You don't switch off. You think that you're going from a 9 to 5 to something that where you can work for a few hours in the day. Although you don't need to work as many hours, once you've established yourself at the start, it's gonna have to be relentless work. A lot of hours that you just put in, and you have to be really obsessed. And I think that's something that I do have within me. I become really obsessed with delivering to the team, making sure that everything's going smoothly and that there's no hiccup on the journey, on the way there. I've got a question for you. Dinero asks, how do you find mixing business and friendship?
I'd say it's really difficult, but I think right now we've found a middle ground.
How long has it taken us to get there?
I'd say it took about a good 2 years. But yeah, right now we've found a middle ground, and it's where, let's say, during the week, we're really focusing on work, and then during the weekend, we go shopping together, we do some maintenance, we do get our hair done. Yeah. I think that's really important bonding time that we need to have as friends, because sometimes work can get really stressful to the point we don't like working with each other because it gets really stressful. Then we have the weekends where we're spending nice time with each other, we're bonding, we're having fun with each other. So yeah, it really does equal it out.
Just let you guys know as well, we don't have any other friends. Lena's the only friend I have, and I'm the only friend that Lena has, as sad as that sounds. But we have had to distance ourselves from people that didn't serve us anymore, people that just always want to talk about what happened a year ago or 2 years ago. And I was listening to a podcast where a man was saying that our brain does this very weird thing where you look back in the past and you talk about something, it all of a sudden becomes a very positive thing, even though it might have been just like let's say a gathering, and you look back at it and you think it's the most amazing thing that ever happened to you. And that's because your brain just wants you to start living in the past. I think that's a very destructive mindset to have. So we distance ourselves from people that were doing this. It's very important to be surrounded by people that talk about the now and the future. What are you currently working on? What do you have in the pipeline in the next few months? What are the plans for 2024? These kind of questions are very important. Someone that doesn't cringe at you talking about the fact that you ate clean in the morning and you went on you had a workout and got enough sleep. All these little things I feel like have just become so lame to do over the few years. In our generation, it's more cool to be like that person that sleeps for 2 hours a day and has had like 10 energy drinks. There's a culture in the UK where doing things that are destructive to you has become the new cool, and that's not the kind of people that we want to surround ourselves with. Yeah, we are each other's only friends, and we found that balance. Monday to Friday, we're just working, and weekends, we go get our hair done together, we go shopping, and we give back and we spend time with our families.
Someone asked OnlyFansClub.
Okay, so I assume the individual here is trying to take the mic. We both do get this a lot, where people are throwing around OnlyFans, sugar daddy. I think it's because we're both young. Started the business, we started putting ourselves out there when we were 19, 20. We're now 21. So I think when people see that, they put the two and two together and think, oh my God, they have a lot of money, something's weird here. Because it's very normal for girls to be in Dubai and for their whole lifestyle to be funded by men. However, we are the ones funding our own lifestyles, and people can't
comprehend that.
Yeah, they can't digest that. So yeah, it's not a nice thing to be told. However, I understand as a woman, we do have a slight disadvantage. I've accepted that reality when I came into business. If you don't, then you're gonna let other people eat you up. So the next question is that Anisha asked you, and that is uni worth it?
Well, if you're looking for a traditional path and you want to be a doctor, a dentist, and anything in the similar sector, then yes, it's perfect for you. But if you generally don't know what you want to do, and you're just going to university just for the sake of it. For example, in my case, I was a bit pressured by my parents to go to university. I was told if I don't go to university, then that's the end of my life. I'm a failure for life. But throughout my whole life, I was struggling to get good grades even in school. So I never saw school and university as something valuable to me and something that I'm going to use in the future. But to those who are actually looking for a normal job and you want to live a normal life, then yeah, you can go to university. That would be perfect for you. But for me, I didn't want a normal life. I did want a bit more success earlier on in my life. So I'm 22 right now, and I'm more than happy with the success we have today with the Airbnb business. But I know for a fact I would not have been happy if I listened to my parents. I went to university, and by the time I'm 30, I'm finally successful. So I was not prepared to work long hours and long years as studying to be a lawyer and then working long hours and working for someone else to be that lawyer.
You mentioned to me that you went to an open day and you spoke to a professor, or I don't know who he was, someone in the law department.
Yeah, it was a university law open day, and one question that I asked, I think it was when I was 16, I asked, what's the work-life balance like? They just looked at me and they started laughing. They said, work-life balance, well, there really isn't any. So they've just said that to me at a university open day. After she said that, I really had to question myself, like, am I going to go to university just for the fun of it, or do I want to start something else where I can learn a high income skill and generate more money than what my time is worth?
Yeah, I guess that's when reality hit for you then. If a solicitor's telling you that there is no work-life balance, you kind of have to literally take that for what it is. I think that's when you started questioning it a lot.
Yeah, I'm surprised no one else questioned it. Everyone was just jollying on throughout the day, but I just thought to myself, that's not good enough for me. And I know for a lot of other people, it's not good enough for them. And I just hope that we are both representations to similar girls our age, that you don't stop feeling pressured to go to university, especially when you're not passionate about it. There is so many ways to make money now. There's so many ways through sales, through Airbnb.
Your personal brand, I'd say.
Personal brand, there's so many ways today. If you want to go to university for stability, you can find stability in starting your own business as well sometimes. I think while you're young, you should take the risk because we had nothing to lose when we started our business. Why don't you take the risk as well?
And is university always going to be open to you if you did decide at 30 you wanted to go back?
Worst case scenario, if everything went to fail, yeah, I could go to university when it's always there. So that's what I thought to myself. University is always going to be there, but me being young, it's not always going to be there.
I guess you saw it as there's more to lose if you're 30 and you start trying a business, then starting a business maybe when you're a teenager in your earlier years.
If I'm 35 and I did go the university route, I would be very regretful. I'd live every day with regrets. So I'm glad I escaped that.
Is it the fear of the unknown, the fear of you not knowing what the potential that you could have had?
Yeah, I think that's with everyone. Everyone thinks in their head, there's so much potential in me. It's just all about putting it out physically and taking the risk and putting the action in. I know that you didn't go the university route either. Can you explain to everyone why you didn't go for that?
I think for me, I realised I didn't want to go to university. It was the moment my teacher turned around and said to me, you're going to fail. Throughout primary school, despite all the traumas that I faced as a child, I still was always able to get to the top classes. Secondary school, again, I was always able to perform, stay at the top, inside the top classes. However, I will say though, I was always the one scraping it to the first class. For me, being at school, it didn't make sense to me. It felt like a distraction. It was a buffer for time for something. I didn't know what, but I just didn't want to be there. I didn't understand why I had to take these exams and go to school and had this pressure on my shoulder when my family was not okay and things were falling to pieces. So yeah, the teacher turned around and told me that I was going to fail and I was, not going to be able to have a successful life. But it's quite ironic, not to be egotistical or anything, but I do think I did well for myself, considering I did not go to university. I did not want to pursue anything in education, but I did believe, in self-educating yourself on money, on business, on the real world, because Macbeth, I'm sorry, that does not serve me. Lord of the Flies doesn't serve me. These are the things that we had to learn in school.
We weren't going to let the grades that we received at school define us. I think that was really a key point change for us when we decided that. We opened our results together, what we got for our A-levels, our GCSEs, which is the exams you do before you go to university, and we just didn't do the best. There must be a video of us saying, these grades don't define us.
Someone asked, which social causes do you find yourself wanting to make a difference with the most?
I think it's probably homelessness and the home shortage there currently is. Currently in the UK, homelessness is increasing at a really fast rate. I know we house families, corporate staff, and we do charge quite a bit for that. But what about the people that don't even have a roof over their head? So that's something that I would really want to focus on, being able to help house not just families, corporate staff for our Airbnb business, but also being able to use a percentage of the profits and give that to a homeless shelter or even start a homeless shelter of our own. And it's something that we're already passionate in, so why not put some more passion into it for people that unfortunately don't have a home to stay in?
I think it ties into what we stand for and what we currently do. It's a great answer.
We tend to get a lot of hate as Airbnb hosts about adding to the housing shortage. So I would really want to turn that around and be able to, again, use the money and recycle it into helping people that don't get a roof to stay in tonight.
People's opinion on the fact that we're contributing to the housing crisis, what would you say about that?
What people mainly say is that we are bringing rents up. We're actually finding very low standard properties. We're going to the landlord and we're saying, hi, I understand that no one wants to rent your property and it's very low standard, but we're happy to refurbish this property for free to very high standards where, look, we're happy to give this whole property an upgrade. So this would then, in turn, allow you to add more value to property when it comes to selling it later down the line. We're helping to bring old properties back to life. Old, mouldy, damaged properties back to life. That's what we're currently doing.
I'd say you're increasing the standards of living then, I assume.
100%, yeah, we're increasing the standards of living. So I'm not sure why people are feeling the need to hate on someone else.
So I assume that we're essentially helping the landlord, but also the end goal is helping house families that need relocating. I was actually in a situation like this in the past myself, where I had to be relocated temporarily because my family was in danger. We contacted the council, and the council was actually working with a rent-to-rent company, and they provided temporary social housing. Now, most people are thinking they're contributing to the housing crisis, but actually no. This is the exact same thing that we do. We help house people that are going through a lot of troubled times, and I definitely went through that, and I was very grateful for the lady and the man that was running their business for allowing and giving us a place to stay in. And they were working with the landlord, guaranteeing them rent, and the council would pay the lady, and then the lady would pay the landlord the guaranteed amount, and the lady and the man, they would have their profits after all those rents, bills, etc. was paid off. So this model not only helps landlords, but it does help society. I think the most important thing that people don't realize is maybe they need to question the government, to be honest with you. Maybe they need to question the control of inflation and how the government is working on bringing that down. Maybe they should be questioning why the pay rise of their their jobs is so little, and that the pay rise doesn't actually beat inflation ever. It's always less. It's a mind game, let's say, that they're playing with you, thinking that the increase of wages is counteracting the inflation, but it's actually not. So I think instead of blaming people like myself and you know, who are just running their business and actually contributing to the economy, I think different people need to be questioned. If your wages, for example, were increased, wouldn't you not be able to afford the rent of the average property? Yes, you would. But the problem is that most people can't even afford the average rent, let alone what businesses are doing. Put that to a side, but people can't afford normal housing. And that is a problem in society in itself, and it's got nothing to do with us contributing to that crisis.
100%. I think you've put that in a way where people would understand our view and understand that we're not the bad guys here. So yeah, that was really good in how you put that. I'd say this is the last question now. What's our end goals? Someone asked. With the Airbnb business, what are we looking to currently do, let's say in the next 2 years?
Yes, I think you answered this question earlier on, and you mentioned that we were looking to now buy properties. So I'll let you elaborate on that.
So as you guys may know, we currently do the rent-to-rent model, and I'd say one of the biggest cons of it is that we tend to have a lack of control because we don't own any of the properties. So our long-term goal is to use the profits that we've generated from the rent-to-rents and then use it to buy properties and then put those properties on for serviced accommodation as well. So instead of it being rent to serviced accommodation, it will be buy to serviced accommodation. This will in turn benefit from capital appreciation. So if we were to sell in the next 5 to 10 years, we would probably get double of what the property was originally worth because we're uplifting the value of the property, and we'd also get 3 times more than what we would if we were doing rent to rent.
I think right now we've gotten to the point where we have very good cash flow coming in the business, and with the government again and the whole inflation situation, our money is devaluing itself every single year, and it might not affect you a huge amount if you have only a few £1,000s in the bank, but when you're talking 6-7 figures, it's quite a lot to just sit in the bank and let it depreciate. Since interest rates are not fighting that, and actually interest rates is in our religion haram, we can't rely on that. It's very important for us to take the money which we've accumulated per month and now put it towards a more long-term investment, which would be buying houses. And this was always the end goal. I don't think people understand that this is something that we've planned since 2 years ago. We planned for the day where we could buy properties, and that's exactly what we're going on to do now. Everything that we've done so far, everything has been planned and everything has been strategic. We didn't go into Airbnb for the fun of it. We didn't go into Airbnb because we stayed in an Airbnb and we like interior design. We don't enjoy plumbing toilets. These are the kind of things that we've had to do in the past. We've done things that we didn't really enjoy, but it's because of the fact that we couldn't afford buying a house. And it's gotten to a point where we can now do that. And that's exactly what we're actually going to go and do. So taking the income which we're getting per month, which is the rich, and then turning it into buying properties, which is now the wealthy. So we're trying to go into that level now.
I hope we are role models for Muslims because we are really trying to avoid the interest, and we want to showcase a way you can still get into property and still avoid interest. So I hope that gives a lot of you guys hope to get into this industry.
Thank you guys for tuning in and listening to the Q&A that you guys gave to us. I just want to put a message out there for every single one of you guys that are watching this video right now. Your past does not have to define who you are and your future. I was that girl on benefits, that family that relied on handouts. I never let the fact that I was born into a family that didn't have a lot dictate the fact that my family one day is also not going to have a lot. I've turned that narrative around, and I just want to make sure that you guys also know that the same applies to you. I couldn't have controlled that my name is Uzma. I was born in Leicester. I didn't plan for that. My parents did, but I didn't plan for that. The only thing that I could then do is go on and take the situation from what I knew it to be and just turn it around. You are in control of your future. No one else has that pen. You are your own author.
Thank you guys for tuning in today. Make sure to subscribe and like this video for more content like this.